What's up? Good morning, Lorcana community. I'm Terrace. This is a quick, kind of randomly put together morning after Lorcana challenge weekend video. There was definitely like some things I just wanted to talk about real quick. Didn't feel like doing a whole webinar setup. Just kind of wanted to throw the camera down, get some sun in my face. To let you guys know that I do touch grass from time to time. It is a thing I do. So yeah, was able to go to the Atlanta Lorcana Challenge, the first challenge in America. It was a pretty sick event. A lot of people there, of course, and I got to meet and talk to a lot of awesome creators, just a lot of awesome players in general. The event did remind me that my social energy is not always at 100%, especially for a long time at an event like that. Unfortunately, I didn't make day two. I kind of got close to 128. I only lost round one. I was playing Amethyst Steel, more to like low to the ground mid range. If you follow me on Twitter, LSP Terrace, you would see the list there. And kind of its tweaks over time frequently. Yeah, I only lost in round one against a red amber Mufasa deck. Funny enough, we're going to get into a Mufasa deck pretty shortly. But yeah, I lost round one to a red Mufasa. Pretty much because, like, even though my deck is pretty well positioned against that deck, typically, you know, when you run a two of like I did with Spellbook, you kind of don't want to see them until later on in the game. Yet both matches, I saw them and they were stuck in my hand pretty much right out the gate, both matches. So that was kind of rough, kind of sitting on two dead cards essentially the whole match. And they were still pretty close games, but because of me not being able to get enough momentum, they were kind of able to take it over with good old Medusas. Gotta love the Medusas. And also, you know, a Mufasa getting them a Stitch Surfer top deck is always pretty good for them, especially after they just Rapunzel to Mother Gothel. It was it was rough. But even though that was round one, I kind of just took it on the chin, kept moving. I got my own 2-0s the next following rounds. Proceeded to get some 1-1s, and then got some 2-0s again. You know, thankfully, I was able to 2-0 the two matches I just did not want to see for the day, which was Sapphire Steel and Amber Steel. I just did not want to see those. And so being able to pilot enough to be able to 2-0 both of those decks was something I was proud of, even if I didn't make it into the top 128. I just kind of just barely squeaked by, and you know, it is what it is. These are big events. This is a very hard format, which I do have opinions on. Don't know if I'm gonna put it in this video yet, or another one, but it is a very tough format in general, where even some of the best players that are better than me, aren't going to make it in consistently to the top. But we did see some very notable people in the top. But today, I specifically want to talk about Josh and his awesome list that I don't think anybody saw coming. At least nobody saw it coming into the finals of the very first Lorcana Challenge with practically 2,000 people participating. It's pretty huge, pretty sick, honestly. I love me some Amethyst. Amethyst is like my favorite color, so it's always cool to see at least an Amethyst deck, actually two Amethyst decks, make it into the finals. But first, actually, let me show you. So this is the cool Dragonfire promo. The foiling on these are super sick. And then also, because they kind of had the Jetsam and Flotsam promo, for those that were able to check in early, I just barely missed it. But because they announced that kind of late, they allowed everybody to get these pretty nice Scrooge McDuck promos alongside the Dragonfire. So that was really cool. Really appreciate them for doing that. So anyways, let's get into this list real quick because I think it's pretty spicy. Shout out my girlfriend for letting me use her phone because I'm using my phone to record. So I'm kind of off to the side here because editing purposes, we're going to put the deck right here. Makes sense? Cool. All right. So some notable things here is you have kind of like the standard amethyst package, right? You have the Cuscos that kind of came into popularity from set 2. You have the snakes, the fox, the crab, rabbit, but very, very interesting. Interestingly enough, can I speak? We only have 2 goats, which is kind of surprising here, but I'm not mad at it, right? And kind of in that space of the extra 2 goats, he put 2 Peter Pan shadows. I think shadow's pretty good. It can be a card, paired with crab, or just in general that your opponent's not going to see coming, just because it's not kind of considered a staple amongst amethyst players. It's more so like a tech card. So some people have it, some people don't. You kind of just have to, as a player, kind of be knowledgeable that he could be present. Like, right, they could play him, but I think most of the time we're expecting a goat or we're expecting a rabbit on 4. We're not really expecting a Peter Pan shadow. But I do think Pan shadow is interesting, especially in a Mufasa shell, because he can kind of come out from the Mufasa trigger and not be able to be attacked into unless your opponent just so happens to have an evasive. But most of the time, that's not the case. And most of the time, the evasive definitely doesn't have 3 strength to take out a Peter Pan shadow out of nowhere, right? So, and then on the kind of the starting end, you have 4 Pascals, 4 Chernobog followers, which I think are pretty decent, right? I think Pascal's good. I was honestly surprised by how much steel was at the event, but regardless, it seems like it didn't really matter too much. I mean, there was also a lot of ruby amethyst, and that's what we saw in the finals. So yeah, I like Pascal. I think Pascal is a card that can be a pest, right? It can definitely be an annoyance to deal with if you do not have an answer for him, because this is just like a small little 1-drop that's going to get you like 5-6 lore over the course of the game, and your opponent's going to be like, why is this little 1-drop, this one little chameleon, being this much of a pest, giving him half of what he needs? And Pascal can reasonably do that, right? If they don't have that answer, just because it's hard to get rid of them, and there's not a ton of evasives that people are running, honestly. Chernobog's just a solid 1-drop, right? Nothing too special, but it allows you to kind of continue churning along through the deck if you need to. Anything that kind of lets you draw extra cards in this game is very, very strong, which is why I love me some Cusco, because Cusco doesn't need to banish itself to get you that card. You have to rely on your opponent to banish him, and this deck does not care whether or not you do that. It kind of wants you, it honestly really wants you to get rid of the Cusco. And there's a really cool synergy that we'll get to with the Cusco that I witnessed while watching the finals on the live stream. And so then the other 1-drop we have is Cinderella. A solid 1-drop. Kind of interesting, right, off the bat when you see the Cinderella, because there's no songs, right? This is a full-on Mufasa deck. There's no songs going on here. So there's nothing for Cinderella to sing, which kind of seems interesting at first. But then when you watch Josh play, if you go watch the live stream, the playback, you see kind of like a very interesting synergy with Cinderella and the fairy godmother that he has throughout the matches, that I'm sure he also had throughout the day, that kind of takes people off guard. And I'm sure they picked up the fairy godmother card on multiple occasions to read and be like, oh, that's what she does. Because it's pretty cool. It's pretty nasty. And then you have the Piglet. Piglet's really strong. You mainly see him in the hyper aggro shell, and this is more of like, not really, it's kind of like an aggro shell. I mean, but it's also kind of mid-rangey. I would say it kind of falls more in that middle line. It's definitely not a control deck. So seeing Piglet in kind of like a more middle to the ground, just low to the ground, mid range style is really cool because if you don't deal with him, he's going to garner a lot of lore. And really, if he just taps once and gives you 3 and then he's gone, who cares? Also, what he's a 2-drop that synergizes with another big card we're going to get into soon. Also, up here at the top corner, shout out my fellow enchanted player. We like playing with the shinies, all right? If you don't play with the shinies, you have them, and they fit in your deck, what are you doing, man? Okay, never mind. I get it. You like to collect, you like to sell. That's fine. I like to play with my shinies. I was running like almost a full play set of enchanted Robin Hoods and an enchanted Zeus in my deck. I just like shiny stuff, man. It's just what it is. So it's cool to see a fellow guy also like to have the shiny big enchanted Chernobog there, especially since it's a one of. You just want to make it stand out as much as possible. And Chernobog makes perfect sense in a Mufasa deck, right? If 95% of your deck is characters, then the Chernobog is most likely going to be extremely cheap the majority of the time that you see it, right? So it makes perfect sense. It's a great way to get a threat out on the board. That may not be hard for Ruby to deal with, but it is extremely hard for Steel, other green deck, like Emerald Amethyst, just anything green, Steel, those 2 colors have an extremely hard time dealing with this guy right here. So no surprise on that pick. I think a 1-of Chernobog makes sense. I think you could even throw in 2 in this shell, honestly, because there's literally 0 songs. I think you could easily go 2 Chernobogs just to kind of make his presence a little bit more like common. But I mean, clearly 1 is fine enough. You have a ton of draw here. So being able to see a 1-of in a purple deck really isn't that big of a surprise. Set 2, I notably had the 1-of most diabolical, and people were always like, oh, a 1-of doesn't make sense, right? You're never going to see a 1-of. Why even have the 1-of? I'm like, I'm playing purple. I'm drawing a billion cards. I'm going to see the 1-of at some point. And if I don't really need it. But if I see it, I'm not surprised. I got rabbits, right? But at least in Ruby Amethyst, I also have Friends, Maleficent, Yzma, so it was way more common. But I don't even think this deck also doesn't need the Chernobog. So having it as a 1-of makes sense. I ain't mad at it. And then also, let me jump back to Amethyst real quick to talk about 2 cards, right? So they both share the same name. They're Fairy Godmother. Fairy Godmother is a 3-drop, 3/4. So same stat lines as the vanilla Yzma, except this one has text. Oh my lord, it's a 3-drop, 3/4 with text. Look at that, better than Yzma. And also has a shift target. So yeah, actually better than Yzma. But essentially what she does is she gets to do a Pinocchio effect, a big Elsa effect when Cinderella is played. So that's kind of the cool synergy this deck has, and that I was able to see Josh pull off on the live stream is you play the 1-drop Cinderella while Fairy Godmother's in play. Fairy Godmother can exert whatever you want as long as it doesn't have a ward, and then like one of your other characters like Fox or something can trade into a notable character that you don't want on the board. It's really it's like it's a synergy that is nice and can come in handy in moments, and you can kind of pick and choose when you want to do it. But like even at the same time, if Fairy Godmother's just sitting there as a 3/4, she's still good. And then also like having a shift target, so you have multiple layers in which this Fairy Godmother can get you value, right? I love that type of synergy. I love that type of utility with characters, is just being able to have kind of choices, and you can pick and choose how exactly you want this character to be important and an integral in that moment, right? So she can either just be a big body that's hard for a Steel player, or just hard with anybody that to deal with in general that early on in the game, or she can be a tech card to exert a character, or she can be that shift target that you need for the much larger fairy godmother. Okay, so speaking of the big fairy godmother, I had to pull it up on TCG Player because I am not fully experienced with what she does just off the bat. So she has Shift 2, which is an interesting cost, but also I kind of like that cost, especially in this very like low to the ground kind of deck, because let's say on turn 4 you can Shift 2, and then you can also drop your Cusco, you can drop a Piglet, you can drop something else in that turn, and I think that shift cost, whereas in a lot of other decks may seem awkward, I think in this deck the shift cost actually is kind of a benefit on curve. And then, so she says, whenever this character quests, your characters gain Challenger 3, and when this character is banished in a challenge, return this card to your hand this turn, right? So in a Mufasa deck that just only plays characters, only just wants to keep recycling characters, in this build, you know, notably Josh uses Cusco a lot. So this synergizes really well with a Cusco. You know, you could do this pretty on curve, honestly. You could play Cusco on 2, play Fairy Godmother on 3, shift on to Fairy Godmother. Oh my lord, that's actually kind of nasty. Hold up. that synergizes actually a lot more than I thought it did. So, turn 2 Cusco, turn 3 Fairy Godmother, right? Listen, we're cooking. I'm sure Josh already knows about this. Turn 4, you do the shift. You only pay 2 to do it, so you have 2 ink left over. You quest, give the buff to Cusco. Cusco does a good old, you know, crab combo onto something. He banishes, you draw the card, and then Cusco goes back to your hand. At least I believe you would draw a card. It would make sense based off the wording, right? So Cusco banishes, you draw your card, Cusco goes back to hand, you have 2 ink left over, you replay the Cusco. Oh my lord, I actually like what I'm hearing here. Fairy Godmother might actually be a good card in Amethyst in general, guys. Oh my lord. I love me some Cusco. So any ways to keep recycling Cuscos, especially being able to get Cusco's effect off and recycle the same Cusco, is super sick. So yeah, so that's the big Fairy Godmother. That's kind of like all the Amethyst package we're seeing here. And then we have, you know, your usual, not usual, I guess, anymore. Usually she's kind of like a 2 of now in a lot of decks, but we are seeing her come back. So he has a 4 of Rapunzels, which is pretty cool. I didn't see him use the healing effect too much, but I guess in a steel matchup, because I only watched the finals of him playing. And against the Amethyst, you're not really going to get a Rapunzel trigger off too often. But I would suppose that in a steel matchup, grab your swords, Tinkerbell, you know, any of those kind of damaging effects will allow you to get more value out of this Rapunzel, right? So 4 Rapunzels, not mad at it. Whether you get her effect off or not, she's just a decently she's a 5. She's got 5 willpower, which is tough to deal with in one shot. And she taps for 2, right? So we're trying to keep the momentum going. We're trying to be ahead, stay ahead. And she's a great way to kind of put on pressure and kind of alleviate some of that pressure from other cards that you've played, right? So kind of keeping some, maybe like them not to worry about that 1-drop Pascal that's tapping them for 1 billion during the game, and be more focused on the Rapunzel simply because she has 2 lore on her, plus she's a pretty decent body. And then the other 2 cards left is Mufasa. Mufasa's pretty straightforward, makes sense. He's an amazing pressure card. He's an amazing value card, right? Especially against red players. Against Ruby players, you know, if you're playing Be Prepared, you know that they're going to get something, like some value afterwards. So you kind of have to find that moment where you can take Mufasa out and then play the Be Prepared. But if they don't really give you that ability, or you don't have that ability, like in your hand on the board, he's really kind of annoying to deal with. And sometimes like you're put in a position where you have to deal with other things, and like you know that you'll be at a disadvantage if you take out the Mufasa. So you just kind of have to let the Mufasa sit there and tap for 2, and you just don't want his trigger to go off at that moment. So Mufasa's great, especially in a deck that has nothing else besides characters, so he's gonna hit all the time. I would assume that it is pretty awkward sometimes when he brings out like a snake or a fox, and you have to bounce something back, but you could always just choose something cheap and just replay that. Or maybe sometimes it doesn't really matter because you get to keep them safe. Or in a situation where you drop a snake or a fox and there's literally nothing on board, and you just kind of have to banish those characters. That seems kind of awkward, but there's only a few chances of that happening, and I think the positives greatly outweigh the negative there. And then what I witnessed as just superstar in this matchup, and I think it's a card that if they play it, especially in this shell, and you don't deal with it immediately, is going to be a problem. And that is the four of Perdita. Perdita's pretty good. I mean, I always knew that she was good during the set whenever I saw people play her, and I kind of played against maybe a Ruby, Amber, Mufasa build that had her. Her effect always seemed nice. I seen people synergize her with the rush 2-cost Stitch. That was always kind of cool. But here I saw Josh use her to continuously recycle Cusco, who is just an amazing target, I think, for recycling. I've seen her, he like recycled Snake, I believe, which is good too. It's a good way to keep maybe one of your smaller characters or one of your more notable characters safe after they've quested that turn. But Cusco just seems so good. Same with how Fairy Godmother can recycle the Cusco. Perdita is essentially recycling the Cuscos. And Cusco is so notable here because along with your rabbit, you're having these ways to continuously draw, which is what a Mufasa deck really needs to be doing. You kind of need to continuously fill the board, make it to where, okay, you either wipe everything or you don't, I'm just gonna win. And if you do wipe everything, I'm playing Cuscos, I'm playing rabbits, my hand is gonna get refilled, I'm gonna play those characters, I'm gonna drop a Perdita that gets me a Cusco back. I'm just gonna keep refilling the board and refilling my hand with creative ways to do so. And like any other engine, sometimes it doesn't pop off, right? But when you're playing purple, it's more than likely you're going to be able to draw cards, right? You're playing Amethyst so you can draw, so you can kind of have that bounce, that kind of engine that lets you keep momentum. I think that's what Amethyst is really good at and really built for when you're pairing it with another color, is to kind of bring a little bit of consistency and momentum to the deck that you need. So yeah, being able to Perdita Cuscos and just recycle that draw. Like, Cusco's here to quest, great. He gives me the 1, awesome. He dies, great. You just drew me into something that maybe I need more than the Cusco, and I just played him for free, or you did a crab ability on him with the Fairy Godmother, and he's back in my hand, I'm gonna replay him. He's just going to be a pest for you, and that is exactly, you know, what Pascal's good for, what Cusco is really good for, is just being pests that either Pascal's gonna get you half your lore in a game if they don't deal with it, or Cusco's gonna draw you like a quarter of your deck because he's just gonna keep coming out, keep getting banished. He's just a small little 2-drop body. He's gonna draw me a card. I'm gonna throw down a bunch of things. You're gonna blow it up. I'm gonna draw cards because you blew it up. I'm gonna play Cusco again. And just keep applying that pressure. And I think Mufasa, to me, the Mufasa strategy, characters only strategy, seemed extremely well in this shell. I know with the new set, Ruber, Ruber, Ruby Amber Mufasa did pretty well, is doing pretty well. But I think now people are gonna kind of look at set 4 as well with Mufasa and Amber Amethyst and be like, okay, how can we tweak this here? So I just want to give a huge congrats to everybody that made it in top 128, top 64, 32, all the way down to top 8, top 4, the finals. You guys did awesome. You guys are awesome players. It was awesome to meet so many different people. It was awesome to meet people that I've only talked to online, and I kind of missed some people in there. It was just so overwhelming. So many people there. So many things going on that I missed being able to see my buddy, my boy Lorcana Goon. I was hard. Didn't really get a chance to talk to Jebus. Saw him a couple times. Didn't get to see Brennan from Podcana. And a handful of other people I wasn't able to kind of introduce myself or talk to. So hopefully, down the line, I can see them again. We have plenty of other events going on. Don't know what other challenges I might go to. I kind of usually plan on just doing one notable one at a time and just going from there. Especially with this format, I'm still trying to piece, I guess, my full opinions on this format. I might do a video on the 2-game format, not just me, but speaking with other people that I really want to get their opinions on it about. But yeah, so I really just wanted to wake up, say the event was cool, the event was great. Shout out to Ravensburger, shout out to PPG and everybody involved in making the event what it was. It was very smooth. The event ran really well besides Melee, but Melee has terrible issues all the time. You can have a 25, 30 player event. I've seen Melee have some pretty notable hiccups. So outside of that, everything else, they crushed it. They did great. So if you weren't able to go to this Atlanta challenge, please, try to go to another one because they are really awesome events. Whether you win or not, I think you're just in a space, you're in a place of energy where win or lose, some of the stress is kind of like taken back, right? There were definitely moments where I felt less stressed in this event than I did in any other tournament I played. So yeah, I think if you have the ability to go to your first challenge or go to another one, do it. It's awesome. Yeah, just really wanted to show Josh's deck, skim over the event real quick, get out here in the sun for a little bit. I'm already sweating. Florida's doing what it does. It's humid out here, right? We don't get the nice dry heat. We get I take 2 steps outside. I already feel like I need to take a shower heat. I just woke up. But yeah, 7 in the morning. We're here. This is going up soon. You're seeing it now. And yeah, so peace out, folks. I'm Terrace. You want to follow me, LSB Terrace, on Twitter or X, whatever you want to call it. That's where I'm at the most actively. I love the Twitter community for this game, and expect more kind of off, like just random videos like this of me talking about things. I need to do this more instead of feeling like I gotta sit down, plan out a video for like 2 hours and then record it. Kind of want to get more videos like this. I might have some buddies of mine, some other players, just wherever we're at, sit down, talk about something. I think we need more just kind of quick, casual content for the game. The more the game's talked about, the better. Anyways, I'm rambling. That's what I love to do. I ramble all the time. If you've met me in person, it happens. I'm done. I promise. Okay, bye. See you guys. Love you, Disney. Love you, Lorcana. All my followers, all my people. Y'all are awesome. I'm out of here. Good day to you guys. I'm out.